Well, hey everybody. My name is Jared Malat. I'm here with my good friend Mateo Calise. And this is the Coltist. Now, this is episode 13 of season 2. Here we are, a little over halfway through 2023 preseason. This podcast is, by the way, a two-sport podcast. Here we'll talk about the Indianapolis Colts, an NFL team based out of Indianapolis, Indiana, as we have been doing. And also the Indiana Pacers, the NBA team out of
Yeah.
Indianapolis. Obviously, the Colts, they're actually in season, right? We're in the, like I said, a little over halfway through the preseason. Interestingly enough, let's tackle headlines early. Mateo, the Colts released Kenyon Drake. Uh, Obviously, with the Jonathan Taylor fiasco going on, you'd think it'd be wise to employ additional running backs in the off chance you actually
Yeah.
need them. So we'd kind of been chatting about it. Is releasing Kenyon Drake a little bit of a tell here?
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, if JT is actually gone, it doesn't make it like we were just saying this. It doesn't make any sense for you unless you have, a lot of faith on the guys still on the roster, on Evan Hull, on Deion Jackson, and Zach Moss potentially returning, week 4, week 3, I believe he's returning.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you have plenty of faith in those guys, you don't want to release your veteran running back that already has a lot of experience. So if you ask me, that could be a tell that yeah, JT ain't going anywhere. But we also talked about it. We said like the Colts are also reportedly trying to sign Kareem Hunt,
Mm-hmm.
trying to get him on the team, and they're keeping tabs on him. So that could also be their way of saying like, hey, we know JT is leaving, and we want to have a quality, proven veteran back. So yeah, right now I'm not trying to, you're not trying to read into things a lot. Just gonna have to wait and see. The clock is definitely running out on the Dolphins and on the Colts. Like I don't see the only way I can see JT being traded is before the regular season starts.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it depends also on what type of compensation the Dolphins are ready to give out because you're gonna have to, pay the Colts and then pay the guy. So it's going to be a double trade. So in my opinion, like I said to you, I've been wrong before, and I definitely could be wrong now. I don't see a trade happening. Like I don't think he's gonna get traded.
Mm-hmm.
I think that at the least, he's gonna eventually, he's gonna have to play. I imagine perhaps if the situation with the Colts stay the same, something like soft holdout where it's not like he's not playing, but he plays and says, "Oh yeah, I'm injured," and he doesn't give it his all. But that's also a bad look for him because you could say like, "Hey, he went out and quit on his teammates,"
Yep.
so that drives his value down, and that's not good for him.
Mm.
Like we were saying this, I don't see how what JT is doing is good for JT. I mean, everything he does, you're just driving down your value.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm of the opinion that holding out never works. Like it rarely works for the player. Like you want to go out there and play and ball
Yeah.
out. Like if you're good and you're healthy and you're consistent, you're gonna get paid
Mm-hmm.
either by the Colts or by a different team. Sooner or
Yep.
later, you're gonna get paid.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, anything could happen. I've seen weird stuff happen in the NFL. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, in my opinion, he's not getting traded. Gonna have to wait and see.
Yeah, I'd kind of been on the fence, thinking maybe JT's right. He's worth the money. This little hold-in's gonna net him some dough. But the longer this drags out, the more I realize like this could all just be smoke and mirrors, and none of this means anything. The thing that sticks out the most to me is like Jonathan Taylor's been there at practice with the running backs pretty consistently. And I would think if he's that toxic and this offseason's his camp's been particularly toxic, um, then I would understand like trading the player. But again, I would like to point out that Jonathan Taylor's situation this year is unlike most NFL players' contract
Yeah.
year in their rookie contract. See, we all know that the world we live in, no matter what job you get, your labor's being exploited. That's called capitalism. And I think there is like a big labor movement over the summer. You had UPS on strike and SAG on strike and all this. And I think that when you're an NFL player, that you're kind of like a celebrity, and that you could get kind of caught up in that whole conversation about not being properly compensated, right? But again, I like to go over the timeline because it shows you how much this doesn't make any sense and probably is all smoke and mirrors. And Jonathan Taylor probably isn't even hurt, probably isn't even going anywhere. They're just trying to
Yeah.
trying to save bullets. Okay. So my prevailing theory at this point is that this has all been smoke and mirrors. This is a war of information. Okay. There are people out there that have said things like, if I were Anthony Richardson, I would be so happy that I get to go to Indianapolis. They have a good offensive line, and they have this Jonathan Taylor kid that I can lean on, and that'll help me kind of adjust to the NFL. Now, I'd go farther and say, like, that's going to happen. That he's going to have Jonathan Taylor for most of his rookie, probably second or third, fourth year in the league, and he's going to lean on him pretty heavily. And here's why. First of all, the Colts have no interest in trading Jonathan Taylor. He's on the tail end of
Yeah.
his rookie contract. He was injured last year and didn't play the whole season. You'd really like to get a barometer on him before you let him test the market. You want to see what is he capable of post surgery, because he had surgery on his ankle. Okay. But the issue that I have is that if this is not all smoke and mirrors, and that if this is not all a war of information, like you said, then that means that Jonathan Taylor has completely destroyed his reputation, and he is in the process of trying to repair that. Okay, because if he's still injured, like if there is fire here, and he's still injured, and he's still rehabbing from an ankle surgery he had last year, that's no bueno. There aren't NFL teams that are
Yeah.
that stupid where they're going to give millions of dollars to a guy that's rehabbing off a surgery he had last year. What? Beyond that, it's an obvious tell now when a guy is under contract and reports to camp with a back injury that he got outside of work. And I'd also point out that there's a smidge of me that feels like, well, it's kind of fraudulent, right? If you got hurt outside of work and you show up to work and try to get them to pay you, that's kind of like fraud, right? Because like
Yeah.
you're not even able to play, but you want $4 or $5 million now? What? To do what? You know what I mean? Usually you pay people that produce and perform and that are consistent. And there are a lot of people out there like, hey man, Jonathan Taylor's been one of the best running backs the whole time he's been in the league. And I'd say, yeah, he had one good year. Yeah. And then he got hurt.
Yeah.
And in the NFL, when they're trying to sign you to like a deal for years worth millions, oh, honey, you're going to have to play.
Yeah.
So here's the thing right now. If a team overpaid for JT in his current state right now, Jim Irsay and Chris Ballard are running circles around this league.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we point this out. If a team is willing to pay what the Colts want for Jonathan Taylor, then Chris Ballard is a god. Jim Irsay is making people look like fools. He literally got another league owner to sell his team and get out, and is also getting a first round draft pick back plus for an injured running back. Oh, honey, it's over. He's the most powerful owner of any business ever. Did you hear what I just said?
Yeah.
Instead, no, let's be a little more realistic. I think that this entire thing has been smoke and mirrors. See, what you don't want to do if you're Shane Steichen and Anthony Richardson and anybody that has any football IQ at all I want to keep Anthony Richardson a secret as long as possible. I want teams to be unprepared for the malice with which he comes at your defense with. And so outside of a little preseason play, let him get his little time. Okay. He got his
Yeah.
little time. Largely, I don't want you saying Anthony Richardson's name. I'll do anything. Even if that's encourage Jonathan Taylor to get new representation after he wanted an extension and didn't get it, right? In April, he was the company man singing the company song, didn't get an extension, and decided, I'm going to make this brilliant decision and I'm going to go get new representation
Yeah.
and demand an increase in pay. Make that make sense to me. Okay. And then he's injured, he's away from the team, he's toxic, he wants out, all that stuff. The timeline wasn't even reported correctly. Now, that's the second tell that made me be like, this is all smoke and mirrors and a bunch of hoodoo. Anthony Richardson wanting out of Indy was not widely reported until after that Jim Irsay pulled up to the camp in a bus and pulled him on a bus and they had a conversation.
Yeah.
Let me be real clear about this. Either his new agent's a total idiot and completely missed, you completely missed the whole point here. You needed to be out in front of that meeting. We want out. Oh, now the owner wants to show up and meet. And instead it didn't get to come out that way. That tells me somebody wasn't playing by using the playbook, right? Somebody wasn't doing what they were supposed to do. And Jim Irsay had to come along and explain things much like I'm explaining them to you now. Injured players don't get extended. It ain't never happening in the history of the NFL. You're going to have to come out here and show me that you can play and play out this season. And then there's a chance I might
Yeah.
re-sign you. But son, just so you know, if all of this is real and Jonathan Taylor really doesn't want to be in Indy and really wants to be traded, you have almost no trade value now.
Yeah.
So this has been smoke and mirrors. A bunch of people are idiots. Or Jonathan Taylor is fallible, just like every other human being, thought he was being poorly represented when he didn't get extended, decided I'm going to get the same agent that Shaq Leonard has. He's going to give me the same kind of money that Shaq Leonard got when he was injured and got extended. And then if that's
Yeah.
the case, then you have to realize that even blind squirrels find nuts. There's proof of learning in cellular at the cellular level. There's proof of learning. Chris Ballard's going to learn from his mistakes. He re-signed Leonard when he was hurt. So he's looking at the situation and saying, well, I'm not going to give him money before he shows up healthy and is able to play. Okay. And then above all things, if Jonathan Taylor is as good as the Colts think he is, there's some, the onus is on them to keep him safe and doing everything it takes to make sure Jonathan Taylor is available on game day as frequently as possible. We really need him. And I wouldn't have him playing in the preseason anyway. So if Jonathan Taylor starts missing regular season games, we got a problem. The guy's actually hurt. It's because of he had surgery last year and he's still rehabbing this. His value's tanking every day.
Yeah.
So it's okay, now both could be true. He could actually be hurt and this was a ruse by the team. The organization was trying to cover up the fact that a guy got surgery last year and he's still injured. Here's this, let's make it like a big team split announcement, all these things, because he's got no value anyway, but it keeps eyeballs and it keeps clicks off of Anthony Richardson. It keeps the media from coming in and trying to get film on the kid's development, right? And anything that you can do to kind of keep that under wraps, I would be willing to do that, right?
Yeah.
Because there's no way, if all of those things are true, that he don't want to be here, that you'd want him around your team and coming to practice and standing with the running backs. You'd want him around your team. You would allow that? No, you would not allow that. He would be at home. Let his ass be at home. I
Yeah.
don't want him here. So it's like the timeline doesn't make sense. Behaviors don't make sense. Permissions don't make sense. Like what we're allowing to show up at an NFL practice now is a disgruntled player refusing to practice, getting treatment outside the team. No, bro, that has to be a ruse. That has to be something to get the media to just laser beam focus on how dysfunctional that appears, right? Instead of clamoring at the gate, holding cameras over the fence, trying to get tape on Anthony Richardson because the kid looks like a rocket ship. Like that's what I think. Like I think that Anthony Richardson's so shockingly good. I'll say it. His arm looks like a cannon. And then when he pulls it down, it's no question he's two fastest people on the field. I think you'd want to keep that under wraps. You want as
Yeah.
little film to digest as possible. And the thing about it is, if you go back and watch the extended amount of look he got in this past preseason game, that was base offense. That's probably not even stuff they're running on game day. So I'm excited as hell for Anthony Richardson. I'm confused at this Jonathan Taylor situation because it doesn't make any sense. Floating the idea that, hey, we could also nab Kareem Hunt here. That to me puts the nail in the coffin. We have no leverage. They already can tell you the back they'll replace you with.
Yeah.
So as we sit here on Sunday evening, Jonathan Taylor has less than 48 hours to get a trade.
Yeah.
I don't think he's getting a trade partner in 48 hours that's willing to compensate the Colts for what they want. And then the problem in that is if he is not traded, now you have to show up and perform. Otherwise, you're going to get put on the NFI, not paid at all.
Yeah.
You're
And then,
going to
yeah.
not lose a year off your contract, which means it's kind of like a death sentence that you get the
Yeah.
opportunity to come back from, but that means it's like you replay the down. That means next offseason, that's the last year on your contract. So Jonathan Taylor is either in a world of hurt where he has very little leverage, and this looks really ugly for him and his long-term value in the NFL as an employee, or it's all just been smoke and mirrors and he's about to show up. I mean, I feel like Shane Steichen's been dropping little nuggets where you're like, he
Yeah.
said he fully expects Jonathan
Yeah.
Taylor
JT to
back
be on the team. Yeah.
healthy. And then and just so everyone knows, I'm not saying this from like I have nothing to do with football other than I talk about it. No, now I'm literally helping to build a brand new high school football program. So I think of things as now an employee at the school and an employee of the football team, and like what if Jonathan Taylor were on my team, what would I be thinking about and how would I be trying to rationalize this? This is what I would be thinking. Like, dear God, please let this be a ruse. Let this be like smoke and mirrors. Let this be a coordinated campaign trying to purposefully take eyeballs off of the development of Anthony Richardson. Because if it's not, you talk about career sabotage. That's what this is. This is
Yeah.
either information warfare, smoke and mirrors meant to absolutely disarm the propaganda machine, or I cannot fathom another professional athlete that has tanked their value harder.
Yeah. Then JT has
I can't,
just done.
like, I'll go out on a limb and say that season that Jonathan Taylor had a couple seasons ago was top 5 seasons out of a running back. I got LaDainian Tomlinson vibes. And I get it. That's a loaded reference from years ago, 15 years ago. But in today's NFL, That's a $15 to $20 million a year player
Yeah.
with a great attitude that shows up every day. That's a leader in your organization.
Yeah,
That
not
that
any off the field issues. A guy
no
that
off the
just,
field
comes
issues.
in, plays, great locker room presence. Yeah, you're not paying him more than 20 mil.
And it's not like the Colts are paying Anthony Richardson that money. So that's the thing. It's not like the Colts didn't have the money. And Jonathan Taylor wasn't going to empty coffers and trying to pull and saying, oh, there's no money here for me, then get me out of here. There's money there. You have the talent and leadership ability to be paid like that. And then this was the decision. Nah, man, I can't vibe with that. There's nothing here, right? The reported single trade partner is Miami, and they're not close. I could have told you that. You know what I mean? Like that. I don't think that was like a big secret. Miami don't have a lot of cap space, right? They gonna have to do some restructuring to make that happen for them. And it's like you said, they have to pay to get the player, then you got to pay the player.
Yeah.
And that's the case, by the way, you have to you're gonna if you're gonna take on Jonathan Taylor, you also have to meet his wishes.
Yeah.
And I just don't.
You're
I
gonna
just
have to pay him.
there's no
There's
there's
no
no
way you trade for him and not
he's not
paying. Like,
trading for him, and he's gonna go put out 2,000 yards for a team paying him less than 2 million. So, and the problem with this is that I'm starting to see a pattern where players are seeing this taking a year off thing as not that big a deal. But there is not a lot of proof that backs up, oh, it ain't a big deal to miss a
yeah,
year. There's not a lot of proof.
most of the times you look at it, it's in the only one I can remember, is Le'Veon Bell doing it when he was on the Steelers. He held out, and that did not go as planned for him.
Yeah.
Like, he got that contract with the Jets, but I don't think any other team is making that mistake again. Paying a running back that sit out at the season, the big money.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, just, and I get the side that he's trying to, he's also doing it for his position group and for the rest of the NFL running backs, and he's doing it out of the goodwill of his heart. But I'm not fully buying that. He should, and you could trace that back, to the new agent. To I don't remember the name, but
Malt.
I remember, yeah, I think, yeah, Malik. I don't remember the last name, but I do remember, that he said that earlier on training camp. He said, "Yeah, I'm not worried about it. I'm just gonna come in, play, and if I play, I'm gonna get paid. I'm not too worried." Then suddenly, right at start preseason, the narrative changed. I mean, he's like, "Yeah, I'm not playing," and he demands a trade. And then, the agent starts liking tweets linking him to different teams. Like, that's just not. Also, what NFL team is going to want to get that in, and pay that guy a lot. A guy that, his agent just went out, and while he was still on the team, and the Colts are not. Of course, I might be subjective because I'm a Colts fan,
Yeah.
but if you look at it, the Colts ain't doing anything wrong. It's
Mm-mm.
not like the rest of the NFL is saying, like, I saw some reports or some tweets saying, like, "Hey, the Colts are douchebags." They're saying him, "Hey, we're not gonna pay you like a star running back, but then we're gonna demand you the assets of a trade like a star running back. Like, just pay him or let him go." Treating the Colts as the villains.
Oh, let him go. Okay.
Yeah, like, first of
Mm.
all, the
I don't
Colts,
take
they
financial
don't care.
advice from Twitter. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
first of all, never take Twitter, never take Twitter seriously,
Yeah.
of course, starting from that base. But then the Colts are not they are not gonna, like, just say, "Oh, hey, you want to go? Yeah, just fine. We'll release you. Just let you go. Let your young player who still has 1 year of team control,
Yep.
your all pro running back. Yeah, you know what? It's cool. I'll take a seventh round pick and give me, a 35-year-old kicker. Yeah, want to go to
Mm.
the Dolphins? Yeah, sure." That's not the way it works. That's just
Nope.
laughable. And the
Yeah, and,
Colts,
and I
what?
think I think a lot of people are so quick. It's like people can't figure out whose side they want to be on. right? Like there's people out there that'll poo-poo every move an organization makes, right? Where I'm an
Yeah.
anti-capitalist, so fuck the org. I'm all about the player, right? And the problem that creates, right? That blind obedience, right? When you just take whatever the player says, and you're like, yeah, clearly the player's right. He's the one on the field going through it. He's right. No, I think like everyone's gonna get some bad advice every now and then. And it's kind of up to you as an individual how you behave. Because here's the problem that Jonathan Taylor's created for himself now. Okay. If this is not smoke and mirrors, and if not the greatest like tank of a personal brand I've ever seen in my entire life, then he has to thread the needle of showing up and actually participating and playing in regular season games all year this year to improve his value so that a team will actually put money out for him. Because here's the thing, he can't show up and not play because his value goes down like every week that he doesn't show up and play. And so I think the Colts were very clear up front. You came to training camp with an existing injury that happened outside of work. We could just put you on the NFI. And then that forfeits a year. You don't get paid a dime for the season. You got to come back and redo the year next year. That's like the worst thing that could happen. So to avoid that, he's now going to have to show up, come to work, and perform, and admirably. And if he doesn't, he has no value to you. Like if
Yeah.
he's not a shred of what he was prior, honey, that's a cut. That is a cut. And you're drafting somebody to replace him this offseason. That's that's what he put himself up against. If there is fire here to all this smoke, because it has been nothing but it, right? There is no offer on the table. There's no such and such is offering a second, fourth, and seventh. Hey, these are something we're going to have to actually think about and willing to compensate. Keep this in mind. They'll also have to have the cap space, be willing to compensate the player, and give the Colts enough to give up on a player like that. So, not only not happening, that ain't happening, but he can't afford. Here, we want to talk about money. Let's talk about money. If you're making like a few $1,000,000 a year and you're a professional athlete, it costs a lot of money to stay healthy. And you go from making millions to no money at all. Oh, that's going to be super hard for you to maintain that level of play without that paycheck. So it's like going unemployed for a year, right? It's
Yeah.
going to be really hard to perform at this level. So I think Jonathan Taylor, like I said, this has either been the greatest information warfare, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, right? Like just this was absolute buffoonery. A lot of people are going to look like idiots when it comes out that like this was all big gamer charades and y'all just got played like a fiddle. Or hey man, everybody's subject to some bad word every now and then. How you kind of take that and operate, that's on you. So Jonathan Taylor's either a complete fucking idiot. I kind of thought highly of the kid and has now put himself in an impossible situation.
Yeah.
Or this was a desperate move by a franchise that wants to turn this thing around. And that's my hope. I hope and pray. I hope and pray. Because I actually think it's interesting. I was in the Marine Corps infantry during a time of war. I think that it would be very interesting if an organization did play information warfare and was
Yeah.
willing to dangle their franchise running back out in front of the media and be like, ooh, 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 you know what I mean? Like, pay a lot of attention to
Yeah.
this while we are over here building a monster. You know what I mean? Like, we're out back here building Frankenstein's monster, and you could just look at this old shitty Frankenstein monster. Ooh, he's injured. He's having to leave the team. Oh, he wants to be traded? Look at who that is. You know what I mean? Because I think that would actually make a lot of sense. Because the true, like what looks like to be the truth, like decided I was going to get the same agent as a teammate and see if I could leverage and get a pay raise without being showing up for work and shit. What? That sounds stupid. I think highly of people. You know what I mean? I have higher expectations. So I get it. I kind of went off on a tangent there, but like I said,
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
I hope it's all just been a ruse and he shows up and kicks ass and that this has been a
Yeah. And then,
coordinated misinformation campaign, right?
yeah. And
Like
if he does,
we were going out of our way to just misdirect. We want
yeah.
people thinking there's turmoil here within this
Yeah.
organization. These players hate each other. It's a job. They show up, clock in, work, and go home. You're getting the worst out of us.
Yeah.
Like, pay no
Yeah.
attention to that shit. You know what I mean? Like, I want somebody to call bluff and say, like, I want Stephen Holder to come out and just be like, I've been thinking about this. This is so much career sabotage that's not believable. I'll say it. And I get it. Michael Pitt. Think about this, though. And I get it because there's going to be people like, Jared, you've lost your mind. Hold on. How cool is it? Michael Pittman comes out and says, like, I'll get paid when I get paid. How interesting is that? It's not. That isn't. Nobody cares about that. That's not being talked about for weeks.
Yeah.
That doesn't make your team more interesting. And if you have an entire team full of people saying, I'll get paid when I get paid, I ain't really worried about it. I'm getting paid to play a game that they teach kids to play. You're not very interesting. Kind of boring,
Yeah.
actually. And now I'm kind of wondering what's going on back there. And now I'm going to kind of hold the camera over the fence. And now I'm going to try to figure out, are they really doing something really dangerous? Because that's what I think. That's what I think and believe is happening. Because I feel I have higher expectations out of people like Shane, right? I think highly of people like Anthony Richardson, right? Like, look how good that he's looked. And you really think Jonathan Taylor's looking at 31 other quarterbacks and being like, him, and him. I'd rather play with any of them people. No, I'm sorry. I am sorry. No, I want to run up against the defenses that are going to have to plan for Anthony Richardson. I would want to be the running back. Now you're
Yeah.
getting arm tackled by somebody instead of gang tackled. That's the difference. And it's like, it does what could and should happen does not match what is and has been happening. So it's kind of like, for me, and I get it, it sounds like I'm losing my mind, but it's like, no, it's like late enough in the preseason and there isn't enough fire. There's not things happening. There aren't offers on the table for Jonathan Taylor. That's not how it's
Yeah.
being reported. If it were being reported like that, Jonathan Taylor's got a ton of value, and there's 12 teams that have called the Colts and have an offer for a third or better round pick on the table. Then I am not saying this right now. But it's like you said. Instead, this agent of Jonathan Taylor is going around liking tweets talking about Jonathan Taylor in Miami. Okay, well, we just happen to work with two people that are lawyers here at Stampede Blue, where this is going to be posted in a link in an article I write. So Brett Mock and Stephen Reed are attorneys, and that's called Stephen Reed said that is evidentiary, and that would be collusion. So again, I have higher expectations out of people. Do you think that in 2023, like after all this shit we've been through, that an organization would allow one of its employees to have an agent actively committing collusion on social media? Does that sound like a multi-billion-dollar organization to you? No. No. That sounds like some third-rate
Yeah.
organization. So that's what led me to this spot, is like there's no way this professional football organization is allowing this clown foolery. You know what I mean? Like, this is either it's nonsense either way, right? But it's either nonsense that's detrimental to the organization and makes us look real bad, or it's just a coordinated misinformation campaign meant to completely misdirect the media and meant to keep them kind of off campus, focusing on what appears to be this big gleaming issue, when I hope it isn't. I really hope it ain't. I hope that this has all been a ruse. Again,
Yeah.
get to kind of say that until week 1 rolls around. Because again, the report is that Jonathan Taylor's supposed to be back fully healthy before the season starts. Okay. Because he's going to need every game, and it's going to have to be real good, especially if he doesn't want to be here. Okay, we have like a 17-game tryout to see who is going to pay for you to try to raise your value, because it clearly can't get lower, right? Because if he
Yeah.
was worth what he thought he was worth, he'd have got or not. Think about this. You wouldn't have the Colts saying, sure, we'll give you till Tuesday publicly. That again, it doesn't show me where this has happened in the past and worked out in favor of the player. I can't even fathom this happening prior to now. So that again, that's what's kind of led me down this path where I'm like, I'm starting to question reality. Like,
Yeah.
isn't making sense. It almost makes a really big company look bad, and it makes a really good player look bad. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know if either of these is this recoverable, right? Does this not hurt the Colts in the future with free agents, right? Like, I'm asking, or do you think like other NFL players like, nah, Jonathan Taylor's on some fuck shit.
Nah,
No,
yeah, don't.
I'd still go there and play. Oh, this is stupid. You know what I mean? No, like NFL players are probably taking care of each other, right? And I'm all for getting paid, but I would sit here and argue, Josh Jacobs held out and he didn't get a raise. So he played on the franchise tag last year for $12 million. And he just got
Yeah.
signed for $12 million. So he didn't
Yeah.
get a pay
JT.
raise.
Yeah.
He did not get a
JT
pay
did not
raise.
even get the franchise. I mean, he did not even play a year under the franchise tag. I mean, you could have
Right.
already, players are some of the running, for example, the one guy I like to use as the benchmark is Derrick Henry, who at
Mm-hmm.
the time of, being re-signed, he had been the best running back, undoubtedly the best running back in the NFL for the past 3 seasons. And he played all 16 games. He was a bell cow running back, and he got paid, I mean, of course, again, at the time it was different, but he got a 4-year, $50 million deal. It's not like he got nothing crazy. And he was, probably, the
12-5.
best a running back can perform. That's Derrick Henry. Played all 16 games, leads the league in attempts, leads the league in rushing yards, over 2,000 rushing yards, leads the league in touchdowns. He's the
You
type of
pay
bell
for
cow.
that.
You pay
Pay
for
for
that, and the pay for that was 4 years, $50 million deal. And
okay.
Derrick Henry, he played a year under a franchise tag. He did not hold out.
Mm-hmm.
He played a year under a franchise tag and not
Let me
held out.
correct myself. In 2022, the franchise tag was $10.1 million. So let us be very clear when we talk about, was it worth it? Josh Jacobs held out until today, and his deal was for 11. So that was a $900,000 gain. He got less than a 10% raise. Now, if he meets certain benchmarks, that could go up to 12. So sure, he got a 20% raise if he meets metrics. And like you're saying, the best back in the NFL, Derrick Henry, got a 4-year, $50 million deal after he played a year under the franchise tag. And again, I'd say, okay, so he got paid like 10 mil for a season, and then 2 years later got a $2.5 million a year raise for the next 4 years. Okay. Well, Jonathan Taylor hasn't given any of that value to a team. So you're still under your rookie deal. Like, I want rookie money out of you. Yeah, I want to pay you rookie money, and I want a performance for a season worth investing in. Otherwise, he could very easily be replaced if he's just not the same guy after this injury. And again, that's where I'm thinking, like, just okay, here's one. Show me a player, a star player for an NFL team, injured and leaving the team to go get treatment, and that being okay. Can you think of a player, an active star player in the NFL, that just gets to leave his team and go get treatment
Yeah.
somewhere else outside the Colts facility? No, that don't happen either. So like I said, I'm excited because I think that I have a shred of a possibility of being right. Otherwise, this is gonna look real ugly. It's gonna get real ugly. It's gonna get real ugly when dude don't get traded on Tuesday, and then he starts throwing tantrums, right? That's the alternate reality that y'all could actually end up in is where he shows up and starts throwing around equipment and stuff and being kind of
Yeah.
abrasive and stuff, completely tanking his value. But yeah, Josh Jacobs it's good to make sure because people are gonna say, well, Josh Jacobs got paid. Josh Jacobs played a year under the franchise tag. Jonathan Taylor, like, he blew his load a little too early then, like a full year early. And now he has no leverage at all. And all the pressure is
Yeah.
now on him to perform. Like, this was a terrible decision on him and everyone affiliated with him. Man, I don't buy that. I don't buy that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that doesn't seem like something, it's just so unbelievable that I'm literally forced to be like, there's got to be another way. There got to be another line, another. How could you let this be a part of your brand new head coach's regime, right? If you're Chris Ballard, Jim Irsay, either them boys ain't sleeping, right? Or this is a
Or
ruse.
yeah.
I would rather this just be a ruse. You know what I mean? So other than that, like I said, I think the cutting of Kenyon Drake is a tell. I think putting out that you'd just as soon sign Kareem Hunt is a tell. Because I wouldn't be saying them things out loud. I wouldn't be putting them things out in the media. You know, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to think. I'm trying to win football games, and I think that um, you also don't need Jonathan Taylor to win with Anthony Richardson. So it would be really nice to have him, but you're going to watch a lot of football games this year, and there's going to be two outcomes. Either Anthony Richardson can't help you win that game, or Anthony Richardson is the reason we won that game. That's how good he is.
Yeah.
I don't think Jonathan Taylor is that kind of running back where if he has a good game, the Colts are going to win. If he has a bad game, the Colts are going to lose. That's not how a running back works. So, especially when you have a quarterback that could just pull it and be just as effective a runner, you could just do running back by committee. You could be just as effective a running or have just as effective a running game. And the reality is, the money on this offense is at receiver anyway.
Hmm.
And so you're going to be like a pass heavy team. You don't need a bell cow anymore. So that's probably the only thing that Jonathan Taylor can say and me be like, "Oh, that's true." But he ain't even said that yet. We're like, I don't fit in the offense and I don't think they need a bell cow anymore. I want to go to a team that's, I want to be a Steeler or something. Hey, that makes sense. Their offense requires a bell cow. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
and I get it. Hell yeah, Jared, we need Jonathan Taylor. Yeah, man, I'm talking about like as far as like an offense. Yeah, you'd like to have a Jonathan Taylor in there, but you could really stick anybody at running back, and they're gonna be getting shoulder tackled and just shaking off a single player rather than getting gang tackled and jumped on top of. And that's because Anthony Richardson holds about half the defense in place, and they're frozen. It's like he's the male Medusa. It's crazy. And it's because they're afraid. If he pulls that ball, he
Yeah.
could drag all of us. He's gonna make us all look
Yeah.
bad. Um, and I look forward to that for like the next 10, 15 years, where you're just like, they gotta honor that run, my man. And that's just it's a sweet, sweet thing to have, especially when he can pull it and he's got a cannon. You know what I mean? Like I'm super excited for the Colts in the short to
Yeah.
medium to long term. As long as again, I'll say as long as Anthony Richardson stays upright and interested in football, the Colts are going to be super interesting for a long time. Because you can't. I heard somebody say you can't build around the skill set that Anthony Richardson has. Like you can't even build around that. You just have to have the best team you can build around that. Like I don't there's no specific skill that he has that is more elite. Elite size, strength, speed, arm strength. Like he has all of those. It's just like Michael Pittman said, it's like a 99 overall created character. That's what Michael Pittman has said about his rookie quarterback. It's like you went into the Madden, create a player, and just said
Yeah,
max
just
height, max weight, max speed, max throw power. Obviously he's a little inaccurate. My boy, have
you
you
can
ever
work
have
on
you
that.
ever
Yeah,
have you ever even ridden in a supercar? Like, have you ever even stood beside a Lamborghini?
I mean, yeah, but
You know
never
what I mean?
driven.
That's the allegory for Anthony Richardson. Like, have you ever tried to drive a hot rod? Have you
Yeah,
ever
it's
like,
logic. It's gonna be
you know what
hard
I
at
mean?
first.
Have you ever tried to ride a horse without a oh shit, I lost English words. Saddle. You ever try to ride a horse without a saddle? The first time you met it, probably going to be impossible, right? Like that's what I see when I see Anthony Richardson. It's like a wild horse, brother. Like you don't have to saddle that, and you know what I mean. Like you have to get a lot of things under control, and also greatness is a matter of repetition, right? He's gonna get a lot of reps, and his he's not gonna be overthrowing people. You know what I mean? Like these are things that can be fixed. Accuracy, I always think right to left. I don't think like when he overthrows somebody, that's not an accuracy issue. That's a repetition issue.
Yeah,
That's a he has not done that for 10,000 hours. When you see throws wide or duffs, I call them duffs. You see a
yeah,
lot of duff balls, that's a mechanics issue. When you see throws that are left or right, that's an accuracy issue. But when he's overthrowing people, he's trying to rein in
yeah,
lightning. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like the dude's got sports. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like he can get that under control. But
yeah,
and
yeah,
so
definitely.
and just so and that's not me dismissing an accuracy issue. That's me saying like you got to put this in perspective. If he was not able to hit what he was throwing at, and the shit is super short or left and right, you could call them things accuracy issues. But when he steps into it, and even when he's trying to hit somebody in a 10-yard dig, it's 11 yards and over his head. Hey, he can rein that in. Those are problems that
Yeah,
it can be. Those are good problems to
yeah,
have. Is
that's
having
yeah,
too much
tactic.
arm, too
Yeah,
much
that's
body. You can fix all that. That's called teach and touch. You know what I mean? Like you just got to teach them to have some touch. That's not hard to teach. But when you got guys that like their mechanics are leading them short, on the deep out to the opposite hash. They talk about being able to make that throw in the NFL. Baker Mayfield's one where they frequently rip on his arm strength. But he can still make that throw. It's like Anthony Richardson has that already, and then where he's showing you issues is on intermediate throws where accuracy is king, and it's like a catch and the guy goes down kind of ball. Um, it's just not a ball you practice a lot.
yeah,
The, a lot of what you work on in practice is timing related. And so like when you draw up a play, like and he drops back and hucks it like 65, 70 yards, that was the one read, and he hit the one read, right? And when he's coming back down and try to hit like an inside throw, and that's like the second or third read on that play, hey, you don't practice that.
yeah,
Like when you're on air, which is a good amount of your reps, you're hitting the 1 and 2 a lot. And I would say, like, if my outside, let's say I got three receivers to the right, the outside guy's running a fade, the inside guy's running like a dig, and the inside most receiver has this little quick out. It's fade out dig. So what we're talking about, overthrows that you've seen Anthony Richardson make in a game, were not on first or second reads. So again, and even his deep ball, he's throwing that 65 yards and it's hitting the dude in the hands. Show me like 10 other people on earth that got that kind of bomb on them. You know what I mean? Like you could just hit a dude in the hands running 65 yards away from you as fast as he can. Oh, okay. Show it to me. There's a handful of people that can do this. And he has less than 20 starts at
yeah. Choose
quarterback.
its name.
It's insane. Like, for the record, obviously, I have always thought very highly of Chris Ballard. I'm like a Chris Ballard fan, but he looks like super smart right now because before the draft, he was like, "Oh, we're gonna get the guy we want." Yep, and then have nothing been like, "Yeah, that was a guy we wanted. Isn't he good?"
Yeah, that was the guy I want. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the guy I wanted. Isn't he awesome? So yeah, I'm super excited for that. So like get all the drama out of the way to say like I'm super excited for Anthony Richardson's just exceeded expectations up to this point. There's always when you got a rookie quarterback, there's always some flop ability to a guy where he could just this could just not be for him. And I think you can already kind of tell that he's not going to flop. And then it's about level of greatness, right? Like, is his ceiling like a Dak Prescott, right? Or is like his ceiling up
Yeah.
there with like the Lamar Jackson, who's basically like winning a game he plays to the end? You know what I mean? Like, is he that
Yeah.
level of dominant? Um, so yeah, what an exciting spot to be in, uh, where the Colts could have an elite quarterback again, like a young elite quarterback again, and be a team on the rise again. I think that's exciting because it's been the last 5 years have just been miserable. Let's just
Yeah.
call them what they really
Yeah,
have
really
been.
bad.
This is the first time in a long time I can remember like it all looking up. Everything looks like it's on the rise, and that's a good spot to be in. I mean, that's where you want to be.
Yeah.
Um, Figure we talk a little bit about the Pacers, and then I'd like to close talking a little bit about high school football if I don't bother you at all.
Yeah.
But
No,
yeah, in
yeah.
terms of the Pacers, they're in the middle of their off season. However, FIBA is it also called the World Cup
Yeah.
or is it FIBA World Championship?
Yeah. Let me look it up. Yeah,
I
it's
forgot.
FIBA Basketball World Cup. So yeah, World Cup it's
It is a World Cup. Yeah, it is a basketball World Cup. Hey, see, I asked a good question. Sorry, I always feel like I ask stupid questions, but this is FIBA World Cup basketball. So Team USA just happens to have Tyrese Halliburton, the Colts point guard, starting for them, and he's a highlight machine, especially playing with guys that he doesn't normally play with. Most recently for a couple no look passes. So Tyrese having a great summer. Also, Daniel Thiess is also playing. I'm now that I think about that because I'd seen a picture of Thiess getting up on a block. So yeah, couple Pacers players involved in this FIBA World Cup. I think it's super exciting anytime you get to see a guy that you see play in the NBA play for his home country's team.
yeah,
Like
it's
I
fun.
watched Carl Anthony Towns get a win for the Dominican Republic, and it was a great game. He's an awesome player. And then obviously representing his the Dominican Republic in this World Cup is just it's super interesting. But yeah, uh, to close, I am not. This is not me asking for money. So let's kind of get that shit out of the way.
Yeah, get that out of the way.
I was for a couple weeks there to get our football program into a position where we could buy like a box of backup mouthpieces. That's what our original fundraiser is likely going to buy. So a lot of people out there are probably like real hesitant supporting a new high school football program. There, I just told you where those funds were going. Um, but I am in the middle of literally the middle of my first season as a high school football coach. I have the opportunity here to help start a brand new high school football program. When I started, there were 4 players, not even enough to really practice. We have about 16 players now, so more than enough to field a team. I think like 10 is the minimum. Um, the games are not going well, so that's to be expected. But we've realized up front, when you're building a new football program, you're building for the future. So we've tried to instill in our athletes like got to show up and work out outside of practice because there's going to be practices where there's not a lot of physical activity going on. It's a lot of installing stuff and um, seniors bid on that real quick because they can drive and their parents like will listen to them. So
Yeah.
they'll show up and they'll come. My wife and I show up every morning at at 6 a.m. at this high school, and try to get the kids to go on a little maintenance run and then do a little weightlifting and then find some way to condition themselves because it's really hot. So that's one of the things is like my head coach is a smart person and he's not going to overwork these kids when it's too hot outside, right? So my thought process is if we show up in the morning and get all that physical stuff out of the way, we can have a meeting and we can install stuff and then we can be out there a little later at
Yeah.
night actually and just try to get some reps in when it's not beating down on us so much because even practice costs people. So that's what I try to instill in any football program I become a part of, whether that's college, NFL, it don't matter. There's work to be done to maintain a level of athleticism that'll help you survive a football game, that you aren't going to get from practice. And so, if anything, let this be a message like to my players who are obviously not finding success on the field, are failing to understand that 99% of what we do as like football coaches and players is off the field,
Yeah.
outside of a uniform, outside of the practice. 99%. They're like 1% of what you do is on Friday night under the lights or at practice. And if there's anything that any content I produce, if there's a theme and a message, it's that I try to instill in my athletes, hey, there's only one Kobe, one LeBron, one Michael, one Larry, guys that you could think of that like clearly have outworked their opponent and the result shows on game day. It's just that football, more so, even more so than basketball, one person does not make a team. One person can vastly improve a team, but one person doesn't take a team from a loser to a winner. That isn't going to happen. So when you only have a couple people that are like early adopters, you're not going to get the result. They're going to get the result that they're looking for. So for the record, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this on our podcast is my players are going to listen to it. Okay. So I just want to make sure I point out the only two people that showed up at 6 a.m. all last week were my two seniors who, after they both played both sides in special teams and literally did not leave the field the whole game, after the game, I asked them both, how you feeling? And they said, I actually feel pretty good, coach. And if you think about nine of my other, so let's say there's 16 kids on the team, 9 of them are freshmen. And they say stuff like, well, I don't drive, I can't get there, right? Okay, well, your parents have no problem letting you stay out till after 8 o'clock at night on a school night to practice football. I'm willing to bet they have no problem getting you here early to make sure that you look good on Friday because we haven't looked good. And I think it's kind of what you do off the field, right? So I want to make sure everybody knows where my head's at. I'd been sending text messages to people I care about, asking for money for my football program. Hey, we raised a few $1,000s. We had nothing when we started. I raised about over 10% of what we needed. So I more than did my part. I thank everybody that supported me. And obviously, I look forward to whatever is next. Whether obviously, I would love to become the offensive coordinator and get to do a season of 11-man football or 2 or 3 with this team. But we'll see. But yeah, I want to make sure we said, hey, I appreciate everybody that helped me with my little fundraiser that I changed my logos on social
Yeah.
media. I was posting links every day. I was sending out text messages trying to help an inner city football program that had nothing. So I thank everybody that has helped support me so far. And I'm going to keep talking about it because one of the things I've noticed, people don't talk about their experience until they're trying to sell you something. So I go to like a high school football coach and I'm trying to ask some questions. They're trying to get money off me. And so I've decided, like, I think that I have a unique experience and I'd rather just share it and say, like, here, this is what's going on. So I hope you don't mind, brother, if we take a few minutes to talk about
No, yeah,
that,
not at all.
talk about that on my podcast. Just just because I would appreciate the perspective, right? Because like I said, a lot of people, they ain't trying. It's like trade secrets, right? I'm not trying to give anything away unless you're paying me or I'm being paid. You know, it's like everybody's clawing at each other to climb a single ladder, right? I don't see it that way. I think that there are so few people that can do what I do, as evidenced by the lack of applicants. So everybody says they want to be a high school football coach, but clearly nobody wants to help start a brand new high school football program in the inner city of Indianapolis, Indiana, because I've posted like about it a lot, and I've posted the link to the job on social media a lot. No applicants, so it's me then. Nobody wants to work. Well, good, because you don't even have to hardly see me or talk to me. That's fine. You should be applying to help start a brand new high school football program, because a lot of people say they want to coach, right? Like, oh, I would love to be a high school football. I aspire to do that. Where are you now? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So let me make sure I say that too, because there's a lot of people I've had. For the record, I do feel pretty good that I've had two people I coached come out, ask me, "Hey, could I get involved and help coach your team?" If there was money involved, they'd be there. Otherwise, you know what I mean? So that makes me feel good. That lets me know that like the people that I coached have come back and said like I would like to start coaching. I'd love to do that under
Yeah.
you. Right. So that makes me feel good and lets me know that I'm doing the right thing on site. Maybe I may talk a little much, but it's not for nothing. But yeah, that's kind of where we are, right? Amidst this like preseason, we went
Yeah.
over like the drama with the Colts. The Pacers really are in their summer program. FIBA World Cup's kind of taking all the eyes. And
Yeah,
then
not
yeah,
too much happening right now.
yeah.
Still ways to go for the season,
Yeah.
but not much for football to be back. So
Nah,
that's
it's
the good
like
stuff.
I was so we have less than a week till the staff fantasy football draft, and I always
Yeah.
make that the Saturday or Sunday before the season starts. That way we are all kind of on a
Don't we have an open spot right now?
so I think it looks like Elliot and John, two Stampede Blue staff members, are not in that league yet. So we might actually need to add. And I figured like my wife said she wanted to play. You know what I mean? Why wouldn't she? So I
Yeah,
just
she
throw it.
could. Yeah, she could do
Um,
it.
but yeah, we appreciate everybody listening to this podcast and supporting it. And yeah, we'll see I guess it's a good question to ask. Do you want to try to do this every week starting now through the end of the season? Because next week
Yeah.
will be like a season preview
Yeah,
if
probably
you
we
wanted
can
to do.
do, yeah, season predictions perhaps, That should be okay.
Yeah, because we have our draft on Saturday, and then like we could record another podcast next Sunday.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Now you'll be getting a weekly podcast uh through the end of the regular season anyway. Obviously, we'll kind of see what happens in the postseason. Like if it's interesting and there's some Colts content worth sitting down and record a
Yeah,
podcast
of
every week
course.
for, hey, I'm all about it. Otherwise, hey, let's just do it every other couple of weeks, kind of wait until the news piles up a little bit. That'll get you some content. We put something out.
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody have a great week. Again, it's kind of like the calm before the storm, right? There, you're still a little more than a week from the regular season play. But yeah, we appreciate everybody that listens to this podcast, and I appreciate you, brother. And
Yeah,
we'll get
sure.
together next week and do it again, man.
Yeah, right after a draft. So yeah. See you,
Right,
brother.
yeah, right after our fantasy draft. Yeah, see you, my man.